It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Bear Boat Alaska, a pure DIY hunting game with one of their 37-foot adventure yachts. You and 5 of your friends can hunt, fish, set crab pots, shrimp pots, and take DIY to the next level. Bear Boat Alaska is locally owned by a Ketchikan resident who lives here year-round. Call Larry at 907-617-4542 or go to bearboatalaska.com. That's B-A-R-E boatalaska.com and tell Larry you heard about it on this podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. Successful buck from rut happened.
Yeah.
It's good. Buddy Ryan, we met him at the dock. We took his boat out. He dropped us off, nosed into this little peninsula, and it's crazy how you think that if you're taking a boat to a spot, you're going to be totally by yourself, but everybody has that need to get off the road system here. Prince of Wales has an extensive road system, so people drive, but even people there use their boats too. But you can just drive somewhere. Ketchikan doesn't have that. So you get a lot of people in boats, a surprising number of boats out, and you want to get to this little inlet or this little cove, and there's someone there, maybe there's someone else there. So it's kind of I wouldn't say really stressful because you're getting away from the road system, but still, it was nice when we nosed in and got off the boat and started walking. Like we really felt like we had that all to ourselves, which is nice. It was a nice little network of muskegs and about 1.5 mile, 2 mile circuit we could have done, and that was awesome. But as Ryan was leaving, we saw a couple of the boats going by, and like, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I think yesterday was a beautiful day, and last weekend it was pretty crappy. I don't know how many people got out in boats to hunt, so I think everyone was kind of itching to get out yesterday, and definitely sounded like anywhere with a decent anchorage, there was a boat anchored up and probably some hunters out on shore. I think it's just that time of year when you can go out and just get to shore and start calling and get lucky, essentially.
So this is your second rut.
Yep.
Obviously, they're kind of too different to really compare, but as far as kind of your day plan when you were elk hunting down in Wyoming, you know there's going to be people, and when we were driving around a little bit, you were saying that people will come up the weekend before, put their fifth wheel, kind of park and claim a spot, and then come back for the opener. Is it a lot more relaxed here than it is down there, or is it shockingly not relaxed just because you expect things to be totally open, and then there's a whole bunch of boats that are out there? And how does it feel?
I mean, I think down in Wyoming, I intentionally hunted areas and seasons, so the archery season is the only time, or the time you get to hunt elk in the rut that are not as popular. And the areas I was hunting were not as popular because, I mean, you can't take ATVs in them, so those were, hunting down south, I look for areas that you can't, there's no ATV trails, which tended to be not hit as hard, versus up here with just the amount of limited road, anything on the road system will be hammered, and then anything that's easily accessible, I think it's pretty hammered. And it's just like such a part of the lifestyle here that it seems at least like everyone is hunting the rut, and
What's a great way to spend a day? If it's sunny and the wind was picking up, it was like 5 out of the north, and then it was building to 10, 15, and today's been like 25 sustained. But just a beach hunt, just get in your boat and just drive up and down the inlets and whatnot. I mean, that's just fun in itself.
yeah.
You're getting the boat back out, maybe set some crab or shrimp pots or something like that, and I mean, that's just fun in itself. You don't have as many daylight hours, so you probably couldn't do shrimp pots. But yeah, that's fun, and that's get more people out there too. But
And it makes it seem like there's tons of people out and everywhere is getting hammered, when the reality is that maybe anywhere within half a mile of the coastline is hammered. But
yeah, and that's the thing too, is road system stuff. When you talk about getting hammered, it's getting hammered probably daily.
yeah.
Whereas the spot we went, at some point probably someone was there,
Mhm.
but it hasn't been hit every single day the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
yeah.
And so when you're moving to like your plan B, and it's such a different thing up here when you're hunting down south for mule deer and elk. For elk, we were at plan A for a couple days. Then went to a plan B, kind of a plan C, and then back to plan A, and then had encounters there. So it wasn't really the plan that was wrong or the location that was wrong. It was just that we had a difficult time locating elk because they'd gone quiet because it was a little bit later. So the problem was I should have come down 2 weeks earlier. Same thing with mule deer. Actually, no, mule deer we got it on the first day this last year. But up here, we took our boat, or took Ryan's boat, and we had our plan A, which was great, little network of muskegs, and he went to plan D. Like, it was just nothing. This cove, can't go to this cove, can't go here. There's another boat, and then he was able to make it happen there, which was awesome that he got a buck too. But it's so much more difficult to go down your different plans. It's not as easy as just, okay, we're going to drive 10, 15 more miles down the road. It's same thing with flyouts. When people do flyouts in like August, like that's where you're at. There's no plan B, and that can be difficult for people. Got an email from a guy, Justin. He's from Pennsylvania. He sent me an email. Went to the mediocrealaskan.com and sent an email, and was talking about just the difficulty and just how different things are. And yeah, everything is totally different. Nothing is, other than currency and language, nothing is the same probably between Pennsylvania and here. The mountains are much more extreme, and even though Prince of Wales is, I wouldn't say docile, but they have some easily accessible mountains comparatively. It would take some work. And if you're used to hiking mountains or you're used to growing up here, then it's not a big deal. But, the Appalachians those are nice recreational hills.
I mean, even between Wyoming and here, like, they're both physical, hiking, hunting, you gotta be in shape, but if you're used to hunting Wyoming, you're used to dry, windy, rugged in its own way, but here it's like muddy. You have to anticipate that you are going to fall multiple times. You're going to be controlled sliding at times. A lot of times it's like, okay, we got to just like suck it up and bust through this brush for a little bit and just be prepared to get hit in the face with tree branches and bushes, and it sucks, but it's just a different kind of hard, I guess.
Yeah, it's very, very dense, and that's growing up here, moving through the woods since I was 5 or 6 or whenever. I mean, you just learn how to, like, what to expect. and where to step in muskegs and what routes look like, and just going up and down these hills and what to grab onto and what not. So if you are new to it, it takes a little bit to figure out that. And just being like, we would go down to the river and we'd just wade in. And even during the summer, the water is pretty cold. So just used to being wet, having wet feet, wet socks, getting rained on. That doesn't really, it sucks. I still don't like it, but I'm used to it. I think you're getting more used to it, even though it's
to me,
awesome.
I don't mind being wet. I don't mind the rain, but the sideways rain.
Yeah.
Hate it. Yeah. When you're just getting whipped in the face with rain, I'm like, okay, I'll meet you at the car.
Yeah, that's no fun. So gears is so important when you come up here, either alpine or rut, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of go through and hunt your option A well, and then be prepared for contingency. So we had going back to our hunt, we had our plan A. We were good to go on the beach, and brought a separate dry bag that had some extra water in it and some extra warm clothes and some extra stuff for fire starter, because it's very difficult to start fires here with everything being rained on all the time. Down south, it's easy to start a fire because it snows a little bit, but that stuff is it's so dry.
You're more worried about putting your fire out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So because you never know what's going to happen. You add in the variables with the ocean. So just had that extra bag there just in case. And running our plan A, had that at the beach, and just a little network of muskegs. The transitions are so stinking loud. As we were making our way up to that first muskeg, it was just salal, and salal is just this noisy bush that can be knee high, it can be chest high, and it just sounds like you have a handful of chips and you just crumbling them in your hand. Each step, it doesn't even make sense how much noise there is. But you try to step up like a deer would and put your foot directly down, because if you drag your feet or just kind of swing your feet forward, you're going to encounter so many more leaves and it's going to be that much louder. So you try to lift your foot up and then as high as you can and then set it down so it's more like a deer, not swinging through, and just so much noise. And so we kind of did a little bit of the program I like to run is calling. I should be more patient, but I've had some success just concentrating on being as quiet as possible and walking slow. So a couple steps and just looking around. You could be going through these muskegs, and it'd be nice if there was one standing out in the middle, but that doesn't happen a whole lot. A lot of times it's in the transitions. It's just a face that's looking at you. And so I've had success going slow and as quiet as possible, sitting for a little bit, only 5 to 10 minutes, and only calling to small areas. And people have talked about how they do that too, where you're not trying to call something in from half mile away, a quarter mile away. You're just checking. You're trying to get a head turn. You're trying to get something to stand up from that area that you're in right there. And I'm sure there are people that listen right now like, no, every time you call, you got to wait a half hour at least, 45 minutes for something to come in. And part of hunting is learning, or a lot of hunting is learning. And as I've only been hunting for about 10 years, you learn a lot of stuff, and you learn sometimes that what you did the first time that was successful may have been luck. And so what becomes your program is just based in luck, but you don't know it was just luck. It was like a bad tactic, or fool's gold, but it worked. And so you run that program over and over and over again. So because that's the only program you run, you end up being successful. So you don't really change. And I think that's might be where I am at with mine. But yeah, I get some deer.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different strategies that can work. And I think different strategies work at different spots during even different parts of the rut. So it's not that maybe any one strategy is wrong, but it's just where and when are you employing it.
Yeah. I do like the freedom of, like, if I want to be quiet, I can be quiet. And I'm not just going to the edge of this muskeg and hoping something within a mile distance comes in because I'm sitting right here. And this is where I'm posting up. So I do like the control of being able to move, cover some more ground, especially in this area that hadn't been hit a whole lot, you know. So low call, quiet call in a couple little spots and then cover ground. And the loop that I made was a little bit bigger than the loop that you made, but it was only about a mile and a half from shore to where I shot it to back. So, but there were some great muskegs, great transition, just great habitat. There were rubs, tracks. It wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah.
There was, I would have liked to see some more tracks, but there was definitely something around. And I moved past this, and this will happen sometimes. One of the best defense mechanisms a deer has is just to be still. So sometimes they'll be partly covered by, or you can't see them because they're in the transition or behind some cedar or spruce. And in those muskegs, they're like 6 feet tall, and so it's just real bushy right there. It's not like timber. And so as you walk a couple steps and you're looking around, make sure you look behind you too, because sometimes their defense mechanism is be still, you pass, and then they continue on their way. And so I had stopped, I turned around, was just getting a full 360, and I just saw a face staring at me. And it was behind a little cedar, and I didn't have a shot. And so I just kind of watched it, and it went behind another tree, and then it was just this tiny brushy knoll, and it was totally obscured. And I just kind of saw the antlers moving a little bit, and so I got to a spot where when he popped out into the muskeg, it'd be a better shot. And he popped out of that transition into the muskeg, and first shot I took, I don't know where it went. I was just standing. And my 270s, the scope on my 270 is fogged up, which is sad. So I'm using my 30-06, which I just found out yesterday morning, or no, Friday night, that my scope was fogged. So I got out the old 06, which I haven't used in a year and a half, haven't shot in a year and a half. But there's no real reason why it would be off by very much.
Yeah.
And your shots in the rut muskeg here, you're looking at, 50, 60, 70 yards, maybe up to 100 yards tops. But usually the muskegs, there's too many obstructions in the way you can't see through that. So, it was a little bit off, but I put a good shot on it, dropped it, and then took care of it, which was awesome. But was it? I had called about 10 minutes before, and I was slowly moving. So, did that call get it up? did it get it moving? Was it kind of working its way toward the call, or was it just moving? Like, who knows? But I do feel like I ran the program well. I was as quiet as I could be. I was looking around, very attentive. I stopped 3 or 4 different times, averaging, like, I think maybe a half a mile an hour. So real slow, real deliberate. So I think if it isn't the perfect program for calling, where you sit and you wait for 45 minutes, which is always very difficult for me, because how do you choose which muskeg? Is it this one? Is it this one? We could, maybe the other one. I think that tactic works pretty good for me, for my impatient. Then you could run into trouble if you are impatient and loud.
Yeah, for sure. I think being quiet is key, and I think even when you sit and call for a while, a lot of times it's hard to find a good vantage point where you can really see stuff coming in. And so I think, I don't know, it's definitely a bit of a gamble to be up and moving, but I do wonder if, everyone likes to tell the stories of like, oh, I blew the call and the deer ran me over. And you're like, okay, sure. But I do wonder, how many kind of just curious deer kind of just make their way in, check it out, don't really see anything, and then they walk off, and meanwhile I'm sitting there and I don't have a good vantage point and I don't even see them come in.
Yeah. As I don't know who it was, a couple of years ago, was talking about how you might think that there's no buck with the doe, but there may have been one. It just hung up, or was just a little bit further away. So you saw the doe, but 15 yards behind it, mostly obscured, was the buck, and it stopped because the doe did. So I think that has been an important thing to learn too. So it's not a matter of there's no deer here, or there's doe but no buck. There may have been a buck. It just didn't respond. There may have been a doe that didn't respond. There may have been a buck with the doe. The doe responded. The buck came too, but just hung up in the woods. So I think being open to all variables, I think, has really helped me hunting, just thinking that and assuming that, and it helps me with confidence with calling, especially in like areas I don't like calling. I kind of like just being quiet because it seems like they get hammered. But a lot of different things can happen. Just because you blow the call doesn't mean a deer has to come in. Just because there's a doe doesn't mean there has to be a buck. But if you don't see one, doesn't mean there isn't. There's a lot of stuff to think about.
And just because you blow that call, there may be deer coming in, but it doesn't mean they're going to run you over, or that they're not also being cautious. And so, you got to be kind of up where you can. Very rarely in Southeast Alaska, unless you're above tree line, do you have more than 50 to 100 feet of kind of a sight line. So I think that slow movement, it's maybe a good strategy to just kind of change up your angles a bit and see if you can catch that movement. And
that that doe that I called in last week, it came from, this was stupid. My setup was, okay, I got here, I got a little lane off to the left, I got a little lane in front of me, a little lane like just off to the right a little bit, but then it came from like a hard right, and I heard it first just make it through the Sal-Al, and I thought, oh man, and I could see it, but I didn't have a good view, and I just saw from like its eyes down, and so it had totally hung up just staring right at me. Turned its head for a second, so I moved, and it picked up my movement, and I saw that it was a doe. But had it been a buck, I wouldn't have had a shot. And it was maybe 20 yards. And I thought, oh, man, that would have been real frustrating because I had my bow. I would have been real sad. But, picking your spot is so big with rifle, too. you might have an awesome lane, but it might not come in a way that's going to walk all the way into that lane.
Yeah.
So you can just kind of go like up and down the muskeg, driving yourself crazy, trying to find the spot that has the best vantage. And then if you do call, then maybe they pick up your motion. Maybe it was coming in, it was responding, and then you moved and then it stopped. So it's not to make, second guess yourself and get paranoid, but there's just a lot of stuff that kind of goes into that. And it's hard to kill deer.
Yeah.
And the landscape up here and the terrain, it's very conducive to hiding deer. Fortunately, we have a good population of deer, so you can still make it happen. But, it's not like in those YouTube videos and those other, films when people come up here and, they're up here and they shoot nice bucks or whatever. I mean, that sort of stuff happens for sure. But, it's still hunting. Alaska is Alaska, but it's still hunting.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, well, I don't know. I guess I haven't really looked that much at video of Alaska hunting, but it sure seems like there's a lot more alpine deer hunting that gets filmed than rut hunting, and I think because when you're hunting the rut and you're trying to film it, now not only do you have to worry about angles for the shooter, but also for the camera guy. That's some really difficult footage to capture.
Yeah. You have 2 or 3 people, you're making a ton of noise. So unless you're going to like some remote areas where they're not used to it, I mean, that's a real tough. If you go further north, though, you don't get as much of that Sal Al.
That's true.
So I can't imagine how much better that would be to be out of the Sal Al range. But, oh man, I saw one video.
That's why everyone goes to Kodiak.
That's why everyone goes to Kodiak. Yeah, I mean, you have to deal with that horrible brush that you can just disappear into, and deer can too. But, it's just different. People want to come up here. People want to go Kodiak. That's a real popular thing. And I think people have that program pretty figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Flying to Kodiak, fly out from there. There's a lot of advertised. You can find stuff. And there's stuff about Prince of Wales and how to do that stuff. And Ketchikan, Sitka, Wrangell, all those areas too, Juneau. The video I was watching was like some hunting yacht.
Oh, that's cool.
And they went out.
That'd be fun.
Be something. I don't know.
I mean, I think it'd be fun just to... I don't know about driving the actual yacht wouldn't be fun, but taking a boat around the islands would be fun.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about like paying for that experience.
Oh, well, I'm pretty stingy.
Yeah. Well, if you were going to say we would do that, then I would definitely hope that we could do my horse back into some canvas tent elk hunt, which I think would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, when you win the lottery.
A walled canvas tent.
Which you are not allowed to play.
A camp chef that's making great food, and you're rugged, but not really rugged.
I'm thinking like we get something on Larry, and then we blackmail him to give us the boat for a week. That's
the boat.
When my yacht dream happens.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, we've had some great opportunities, and, we don't necessarily need that. He'd probably let us borrow it, too.
That's true. He probably would.
Yeah.
I'm just too scared to drive it.
Don't need to blackmail him. Yeah. So what we need to do is convince him to drive it, and then he can just hang out at the boat and whatnot.
Bridger can cook.
Yeah. No, I think that would be a lot of fun. It's just a bunch of friends that have a boat.
Yeah.
And doing that, that deer camp type thing. It's fun when it's a boat. We've done that with Rob and Mandy.
Mm-hmm.
Just heading out, and we camp on the shore, and they camp in their boat, and crab pots, shrimp pots, and kayak around, and get the crab cooker, bring it to the beach, and just kind of hang out.
Yeah.
So much fun just being a different spot, and it's such a different, and that's what I grew up with, a lot more of that sort of stuff than staying at campsites where you have, and that was fun. I did a lot with like trout fishing in California. Go up to Sims Flat on the Upper Sacramento River, and get a spot next to the river and just hike down, get away from people. But there's fun at campsites and whatnot. And we've done some of that too, and nothing wrong with that at all. But when you just choose whatever piece of land that you want and you camp there, and it's just a lot of fun. Well, we've got a couple more weeks of rut. Season ends in this unit at the end of the month, so hopefully we can get another deer down.
Yeah, and we got some ribs waiting for us here. We got some ribs waiting for us,
yeah. We'll see how those go.
Took out the whole rack of ribs, so.
Yeah, we'll see. See how that tastes. Hopefully it's good. Got good seasoning on them. They've been in there for a while, so yeah. We should check out the MediocreAlaskan.com. If you happen to have questions too or anything like that, shoot me an email. I appreciate Justin sending me that email. Hopefully we filled in some gaps. I'll do a gear-specific type thing, and I've posted on YouTube some of the specific gear type stuff, so that'd probably be a good place to find that. But thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you next time.